are in line, the weeper, we would know.
Hey, we're on. And again, the timer is not working correctly. This is 2 weeks in a row where I've expected there to be about 5 more seconds before, and just one of these times it's going to come on and I'm going to be like in full funk out, and that's going to make no one ever watch this again, ever. Hi, everyone. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. I'm so excited about today's subject on sales structure and size and compensation. I will tell you, this is not a new topic by any means, but it is certainly one that has a lot of people talking about right now. You know, we'll get into this in just a second, but just to kind of set it up, I think that many of our clients have been wondering if they had the right sales structure, the right number of people, the right compensation for years and years and years. But business was kind of good, and when business was good, I don't want to disturb anything. Business is good. And then all of a sudden we go through the pandemic and business isn't good, and now it's like, oh, well, maybe we should change. But then there's a little fear of, well, is now the right time to change? So I don't know, as someone much smarter than me once said, when's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? When's the second best time to plant a tree? Right now, today. All right, let me do some introductions and then we'll jump into this conversation. So you are watching the Improved Sales Performance livecast, and this week and for the next several weeks, we're going to be dissecting the media sales report. And if you don't have it already, you should definitely go and download it. If you are watching right now on LinkedIn or YouTube, feel free to use the comment box and ask us questions and tell us what you think of the stuff we're talking about. It helps us. We can see what you're commenting. My understanding is that we don't see it in real time. It's a few seconds delay, but go ahead and leave those. Also, log in and comment. Tell us where are you watching from today? And how cold is it where you are? That's the big topic. I'm in Dallas and it is like 26 degrees outside, which for us might as well be like minus 1,000 degrees. Joining me today are two of my absolute favorite people, colleagues of mine. We've worked together a long time and we have a lot of fun chatting about things when the camera's not rolling. So we're gonna do the same thing in front of everyone. First is Stephanie Downs, who is a partner here at CSS and a VP senior consultant. And then Emily Estey. Stephanie's there. We practiced that. And hi, Emily. Emily's there. Emily Estey, who is also a VP senior consultant at the Center for Sales Strategy. And we are excited to talk about this. The media sales report was conducted back in 4 fourth quarter of 2020. So it is very, very current information. And while we sent it out to, as we pushed it out and asked for people from all over so that everyone knows, because some people have asked, it is, we had 337 salespeople respond, and we had just under 190 sales managers, sales leaders respond. So it's a nice big survey. Most of the people came from the media industry, or all the people came from somewhere in the media industry, and they were veterans. Most had 11 plus years of experience. So we're getting a really good look at the industry. All right, so with that, let's jump in. And I did prepare some questions because I think this is a robust conversation. There's a lot of comments on this. So more than half the sales managers said they don't have the right size sales department. So more than half, 2/3 feel they should increase. So 1/3 feel that they should decrease. What do you think about that? I mean, do people really want more salespeople, or do they want more activity? Do they want more output? What's going on with this? Emily, we'll start with you.
Well, I certainly think that, last year was an interesting year, right? So I have heard of a lot of positions opening, right? A lot of people having to leave the workforce for whatever reason, for childcare reasons, a lot of that. I heard a lot of that. So definitely a lot of open seats, more so than I actually thought. And the other thing that happened was that non-performance, there was a glaring light on that last year, right? Like if you maybe kind of to your point earlier, Matt, like when things were good, you didn't really have to do anything about non-performance, but when it was glaringly obvious that you had some non-performers on your team, it certainly last year certainly shed a light on that. But I would also say, yes, they're looking for people, but everybody wants more activity from the sales staff that they have. Everybody does. So it's a hard one to answer. I definitely know there's positions open for sure, but I would also say that every manager I talk to wants more activity. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Stephanie, what's your insight on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Emily. It can be both. It can be they truly need more people for sure. But on the setting appointments and sales process page, that said 78% of managers want more appointments. So you could argue that they need a better system or a better process to generate leads.
Yeah, whenever I get asked when we're talking to clients and someone says, you know what, we're one person down or we need to add a person, my first response is usually why?
Right.
And well, we had that many last year. I said, okay, well, why? Why do you need to add someone? What are you trying to accomplish? And normally they'll say, well, I need more activity. We don't have enough in the pipeline. I'll say, well, why can't you just reorganize or rethink through your systems to get more activity and more in the pipeline from your current sales department?
Right.
It's
like what has to change to make that happen?
Yeah, what do we need to do different than just adding a person? Because maybe adding the person's the right thing to do.
Right, could be.
But the other thing too is it's not that, and I'm not trying to like throw salespeople or AEs under the bus here, because there's a lot, they're active, they're doing stuff. They're just not able to focus enough time on the things that are going to actually generate revenue. Steph, on that same page of the media sales report, we just were talking about that between internal meetings and paperwork. AEs, that takes up 69% of their time weekly. So, that's crazy. So it's not that they're not being active, they're just being active in the wrong way. Or we're asking them to be, active in a place that doesn't generate revenue.
And what page was that in the media sales report?
Page 9.
Setting appointments and sales process.
Setting appointments.
Does that count the cover page or?
As I said, it's like page 9-ish.
Sue's how that works.
Yeah.
It is interesting when you think. First of all, I agree with you, Emily. Table stakes is that everyone is working hard. So if someone's not working hard, you're going to know that, and that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, that's a performance issue.
Whether or not someone's working, yes.
Yeah.
But how productive is somebody? And do they have the system and the resources that have been built so that they can get more appointments and do more CNAs and do all of that?
Right.
I mean, most salespeople that are biz dev salespeople, hunters.
Yep.
They probably, I mean, tell me if you guys agree, they'd probably rather just be doing discovery calls all day long and presenting proposals.
Sure.
Right. And have the opportunity to close a business. That's what they love to do. They want to close business, but there's so many other demands that are not allowing, that are getting in the way of that.
All right. So that's the perfect segue to so let's assume that the sales department, the sales leaders that we're talking to, want to build a sales organization that is designed to grow revenue, not maintain revenue, but to grow revenue, growing current key accounts, as well as a strong new business development effort, which is what we all need right now is a strong new business. How should a sales department be structured, or what should they be thinking about to do that? Stephanie.
Yeah, they first have to identify what are the key revenue areas, right? They've got to determine the new business, the key account growth. I mean, you touched on a couple of them, but they've got to really look at their department revenue goals and then step back from that and say, one, are we consistently performing against all of those? And if not, where's the breakdown on that? But it starts with understanding what those are and saying, is our structure, does it support all of the key, revenue goals from the department standpoint? And if not, then there's a whole nother process to follow, but it starts with that part.
Okay. So that's where Emily, what would you add to that?
I would just say, we have a document called Sales Structure that's part of our impact courses. And it really helps you determine, do you have a people problem or do you have a process problem? And is it that you have the wrong people in the wrong seats? You don't have enough talent across your team? And if that's the case, or if that's not it, then you do need to point to process. And so what is the sales structure, and how do we fix that, right? If you believe that you have the right people in the right seats, then you must have a structure problem. And in that document, Sales Structure, it really helps you determine what should the structure be? Do I have the things in place, to your point, Steph, to meet the KPIs that I have? And, how do I define the problem? And we talk about defining the problem in 3 areas. Is it generating leads, selling solutions, or serving clients? Like in those 3 areas, do I have the right structure to do those 3 things?
Yeah, we wrote an article, or we wrote a white paper years ago about the lone wolf sales model.
Yes.
Right. So the lone wolf sales model is still prevalent, right? I mean, it's still out there to some extent. And the idea there is that one person, the sales rep, is responsible for doing basically everything. Finding their leads, finding their prospects, marketing to them so that they can get an appointment, making that appointments, doing the appointment, preparing for the appointment, presenting and following up on that appointment, coming up with ideas and solutions, bringing back a proposal, negotiating, closing, growing, fulfilling, all the things, one person. And by design, if you're really good at business development, by design, after a certain amount of deals are closed, you no longer have time to do any more business development.
Right.
So what are some sales structures that you have seen recently that have caught your attention, that maybe they're working or they're just interesting to you? What are you seeing? What are the slight changes or the big changes that you're seeing? Who wants to go first? Steph, go.
Yeah, sure, I can. Really 2 key things: that there's a clear lead generation strategy. whether that is outbound marketing, inbound, but there's a clear lead gen strategy. And then also that there's some level of an account management team, you know, whether that's one person, two people, three people, but there's some sort of account management team that's helping with the back end post sale, fulfillment, whatever that is. But there's people to help with all of that outside of the seller, who's obviously doing all of the true selling work, but there's somebody else running alongside helping with that. Mm-hmm. Those would be my two. Em, is there anything you would add to that or say differently?
I would just say, you know, the lone wolf model is interesting in that if you did have your CRM loaded with sales enablement, where that was running on its own and leads were being generated, like on the sales enablement page of the media sales report, over 53% of salespeople do not think their company has a marketing plan that attracts leads and promotes thought leadership. There's a huge opportunity there. So I would say that if you really had the lead gen automated, then you really, to Steph's point, should put some serious thought into dividing up account executives and account managers. But only if you really have the lead gen piece. If you automate it like we do, right? Like ours is pretty automated. If you automated that part of it, you have to focus there first, because if the leads aren't coming in, then the rest of it doesn't matter, right? Like you have to make sure that you've got some system in place for lead generation. And I think it's a lot to ask when we're telling AEs that it's going to take, you know, 7 to 9 touches in 10 days, and sometimes even more in this environment. That's a lot to ask.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And there is something to be said about it.
It's a full-time job.
Right. It's a full-time job. It's actually a job.
It is actually a full-time job.
Well, and for years, and we still love the idea of target account focus, and account-based marketing would be the new clever word that marketers are using to say target account focus or category focus, either one. And I think that should happen, right? That's a smart thing to happen, but why not have a marketer do that?
Yeah.
And by the way, if you think about a lot of the things you buy, whether it's stuff that you need for your home or for your personal use or even for your business, it's very rare that the person that sells it to you is also the person that delivers it and fulfills it and maintains it and collects the money and works out the credit.
Yeah, that's the case in most industries.
We just moved into a new house and remodeled it, and we got all these, you know, new appliances and stuff. And the dude that sold us our appliance, amazing guy, great. I loved this guy. He did not come and put in my stove.
And if it breaks, you're not calling him.
Right. And the bottom drawer was broken. I wasn't calling Jake. I was not calling him. I was calling the service department, right? Which is the person that sells you the car doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's talk about the sales managers that are either watching now or will be watching this on a replay. And let's say, for the sake of this conversation, that they cannot do a major restructuring of their sales department. They just can't. The corporate won't allow them. What advice or what ideas can we give them on things that they could do that would help? What do you guys think?
I think one of the things that I'm seeing, it kind of harks back to, you know, some of our newspaper clients, is I've seen a lot of success with category focused AEs. So, and the reason it's working is because it limits their scope, right? So it saves them time. If they're home improvement and healthcare or whatever it is, then that saves them time in the sales process, researching, developing questions, all of those things. So I've seen a lot of success, and that's kind of like in the last year and a half, where I've had a lot of organizations that I'm working with are having AEs kind of have a desk, if you will. Yeah.
Steph?
Yeah, I like that. I had not thought about that, but I'm hearing that too. The other thing I would think about, if you're ringing too many bells, in the sales organization? Are you putting too much out that doesn't need to be there? I would also think about, back to what we were saying earlier about those percentages with internal meetings. Don't have a meeting just to be having a meeting. Eliminate that where you can. Think about if there are ways that we can give one person on the team a focus of handling some of that paperwork. Get order entry off people, if nothing else. I mean, there can be small changes, but I would absolutely think about too many bells ringing and eliminating meetings, and even trainings for that matter. If they're not bringing value to the team, don't have them.
I remember doing an exercise years ago with one of my clients, and it was called the cost of a meeting.
Yeah.
I would, if you are having meeting fatigue, even if, I mean, a lot of these are Zoom meetings, add up the cost, how much it's costing you to have all of those people in the meeting rather than on the street doing their job. And you'll be shocked. And you'll probably, when in organizations that I've done this before, I mean, I've had people like, you know, regional vice presidents like, okay, you know, that meeting we have on Monday, we're not having that anymore.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this for years. Like if it's just passing on information and housekeeping,
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Have a weekly newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
I mean, meetings are great, but they come with a cost. So make sure that have a purpose, a why.
That's right.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears. Or here, let me ask this one last question on structure. And you touched on it earlier, but how does a sales manager know if they need to restructure? Like, what are some of how do they know?
Well, non-performance would be the first thing. And that would be non-performance across the board. Like you're going to have, there was some statistic where it was 20%, I think, of managers believe that they have 20% of their team is non-performers or whatever. So there's that.
Not a superstar, right? Yeah.
Right. But if everybody's kind of walking through mud, you know what I mean? If everybody is not performing up to their standard, that's the first place you'd look. And then you determine, is it people or is it structure? Right.
Yeah, I think those are really the first two steps. Stephanie, anything to add to that?
No, just another way of saying exactly what Emily just said is, you know, if we have 3 or 4 key revenue goals every year, if we're not consistently performing against any one of those, then you got to step back and exactly what Emily said. Is it a people problem or a process problem?
Right.
And then there's a process you can follow to determine that.
Yeah. Most of the people in the survey did say that they were using some sort of a talent assessment. Yeah. And so and we'll talk about that on an upcoming show when we break down that section of, but if everyone's using a talent assessment, you got to assume that they're making good decisions. So you selected these people.
Right.
We got to help grow and develop. And so is it people, process, or product, right? The product's the product, the people are the people. Maybe the system's wrong. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about compensation in the last 10 minutes here. Let's jump into some compensation because, 100% commission, 100% salary, somewhere in between. What the report say to you? What did you see from this? Stephanie, you go first.
That it is a big mistake to assume that it's one or the other. I mean, I think the number was 70% of salespeople would like some version of salary plus commission. So it's not all salary, it's not all commission. Matter of fact, 27% said they wanted straight commission. That's a pretty low number if you think about it. 70% want some sort of combination.
So why don't we do it? What's the holdup? Why do you think? Why hasn't the media industry embraced the salary plus commission structure?
Can we really answer that?
the people have spoken. I mean, it's pretty clear. And by the way,
just old school thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Not adapting to the way we do business today, not adapting to what salespeople, what salespeople want. I mean, that's changed over the years.
Yeah. One of the reasons I thought about, and tell me what you guys think of this. when someone's on straight commission, they self-manage. Problems take care of themselves when you're on straight commission. If someone's not performing, a sales manager will say, well, I don't have, you can say to the sales manager, well, that person's not performing. You need to either coach them up, or maybe this isn't the right job for them. And the sales manager can easily say, well, I don't really need to deal with that because they're not making enough money. They'll eventually leave. When you all of a sudden you put a salary on someone and they're going to make that regardless of their performance, it puts a lot of pressure on the sales manager to hold people accountable and to set budgets correctly and to do those things. And that's not something that has typically been asked of sales managers. Yeah. Do you guys see it that way?
I mean, I think that's an interesting take on that. I do. One of the things that I struggle with a lot of my managers, honestly, is that accountability piece. And, holding non-performers, holding them accountable. And it's a little bit like, I use the phrase, the inmates running the asylum quite a bit. Like,
the dog wagging, the tail wagging the dog.
So I think accountability, like I was just thinking, one of the things that we were looking at again on setting appointments and sales process, that where does a sales manager's time go? One of the things that was shocking to me was 27% spend 21 to 30% of their time coaching. So there's almost this piece of, getting managers more in the game with what each individual wants and needs, and holding them accountable to their own goals and their own, their own future, if you will. I think if we get more engaged there, we want people to work for us because they know we're vested. They know as managers, we're vested in our people. And I think there's a little bit of a miss there. I think it's when you're working really hard and coaching really hard with an AE, it's a lot easier to hold them accountable. And I think managers miss that a little bit.
Especially when you have all of the right, and this is slightly a detour from our topic, but especially when you have the right leading indicators in place and the right performance metrics that you're measuring, accountability becomes easier. A lot of people think accountability is the punishment at the end for not doing something right. And that really needs to shift. It's more along the process. But again, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to that number that you gave, Emily, on the amount of time that a sales manager spends coaching and developing people is so low. I mean, maybe we've done it to ourselves by calling ourselves managers, right? So we think our job is to manage, where I think the role of that position should really be to coach and develop your team to have success.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, we're all coming off the Super Bowl, but imagine if the coaches of the teams didn't spend their time coaching.
Right. Well, and if on that same page between reports and internal meetings, 85% of managers' time is spent doing reports and internal meetings. So when are they going to, and then, signing or approving inventory, 55%. Like it's maybe focusing on the wrong things, or not having the systems in place to take some of that stuff off their table. Yeah. We're having managers watch right now going, really? Thanks, Pollyanna.
Right,
Thanks,
exactly.
Right. But little by little, you know what I mean? Like little by little, find ways to take some of that stuff off your plate and off the AE's plate.
One thing, and I know the three of us all experience this. It's very easy to see what another organization should do to improve. It's very difficult to see what your organization, especially your local department, should do to improve. It just is.
Yes.
So it's probably a good thought exercise, right? To say, okay, if I was looking at this, if I was coming into this job, if I was asked to be brought in to say, how would I change, grow, develop this? What would I do differently? Because when you're in it, it's hard because you know all the sacred cows.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Any final comments on this subject? Anything that you're thinking of we haven't talked about, but you're like, you know what, this needs to be said? Anything?
I would just think, yeah, I mean, using that sales structure document that we talked about, you can find it in the library. It might just be an interesting, I feel like some people don't start the process because they don't know where to start, right? They don't know how to start. And I get that. It's a big elephant, right? But if using that document or talking to one of your consultants or whatever, you might explore it. Just explore it. But don't do it unless don't restructure unless you absolutely feel like you need to. Don't do it.
Yeah. Or if you don't have the stomach to do it.
That's exactly right.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So no, I was just going to say, people do what they get paid to do. And are you paying them for what they need to do?
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. Are you paying people to maintain accounts, or are you paying people to grow accounts?
Grow accounts or develop.
Right. Or develop new business.
Yeah.
You know, what are you paying? And flip it around and say, okay, I know this is what my commission structure says, but let's look at this particular AE and let's say what percentage of their income is coming from maintaining versus new business development versus growth. And it's kind of eye-opening. All right, so here's the thing: a bunch of us, a bunch of people watching this are probably saying, "Well, I'm not a client of CSS, and so I don't know what these documents are." So if you are one of those folks that watching this, so maybe you're a former client or a future client, and you want more information, just reach out to Emily or Stephanie. Just ping them on LinkedIn. Shay will put up their LinkedIn things at the end here, but we're happy to talk to you. I mean, if this is an important subject to you, like it is to us, then definitely reach out to us, and we're happy to have a conversation with you and get you pointed in the right direction to the best that we can.
Sure.
Emily, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Stephanie, thank you. Thank you again. This is you're a two-timer, right?
I am a two-timer.
Two-timer. Wow, that's something. All right, let's talk about just for a second before we say goodbye. We are committed to doing these weekly broadcasts to unpack the media sales report. Please share this video. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your family. We take family members too. Tell everyone. We're going for YouTube subscribers in a big way. So if you could do us a favor, and if you like what you've heard, subscribe, like, share, subscribe, set an alert so you know that this is coming. Again, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Emily. It was a great show, and we'll see you guys later.
Awesome.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.